Today, that was the official start to the school year for most children across the country. But in Jasper, Alberta, classes are still closed. The community is still recovering from wildfires that destroyed a third of the town in July. As CBC's Janet French tells us, it's among a growing number of places being forced to cope with the aftermath of natural disasters.
Well, it's a 17-kilometer drive.
After a month of evacuation, the LeBlanc family is thankful their children will start the school year in Jasper.
These kids have been through something life-changing, and they need to be together to process it.
The LeBlanc's house was among the 360 buildings destroyed by wildfire, along with most of their belongings.
This is like the little beacon of light that we're all looking towards after a very difficult summer.
Jasper's 2 school buildings were spared from destruction. School staff were able to shut down the ventilation systems remotely, but smoke and toxins got inside through windows left open.
The building was flooded with char and ash, and that is unhealthy to breathe.
Schools in Jasper are among the latest forced to adapt in the face of natural disasters. Wildfires have also forced out residents from 2 northern Saskatchewan communities, delaying the start of school in the town of Sandy Bay. A World Bank study published earlier this year found disasters such as wildfires, floods, and extreme heat are causing increasing school closures.
Emergency planning, ensuring that you're ready to react to the unpredictable is where we are in education now.
BC's Fraser Cascade School District has spent the past few years navigating floods, washed out highways, wildfires, and snowstorms. Experts who've responded to past disasters say recovery is lengthy and complex, and more emergency planning is needed.
When we think about the impact of global warming, I think these are just some of the realities that we're facing.
And that students and staff will also need extra help with their mental health.
I think the critical aspect for students is to get them back to school and in front of caring educators as soon as you can.
In Jasper, about a third of school staff lost their homes and need to find somewhere to live. 9-year-old Theodore LeBlanc is anxious to hear his classmates' summer vacation stories.
It's going to be very interesting to hear, instead of someone saying, oh, guess what, I went to Winnipeg and went bowling.
But not sure which of his friends will be returning. Janet French, CBC News, Edmonton.
Now, you saw my next guest in that report just there, and she joins us now. Carolyn Lewis is the superintendent of Grande Yellowhead Public School Division, and she joins us from Edson, Alberta this evening. Thanks so much for your time. Nope.
Yes, pleasure.
Good to hear you there. And I understand that you were able to visit the schools once it was safe to do so. Can you paint the scene for us?
Yes, it was like a war zone. It was traumatizing, to say the least, because of the smoke and char, every ceiling tile in both buildings had to be removed. And every aspect of the school, inside and out, had to be washed down with soap and water, the vent systems cleaned, technology, UV cleaned, and we've had over 200 workers in these buildings for the last 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks almost.
And so that helps explain certainly the delay in being able to open the schools to the students. Yes, that's primarily what's happening, preparing the schools?
Yes, and so when I walked through the schools, the head of the restoration company wiped his hand on a dirty surface and it looked like it was just dust. But when he wiped it away, there was remaining on his hand this black char. And he said, that's what's through this whole building. And so it helps people understand that there really was some serious restoration that had to take place. And it's well in way now. And we're anticipating opening in the next 15 days.
Yeah, well, Wayne, we just heard from a student there who was looking forward to that reopening. And the one thing I was wondering is, I mean, that student, that family lost their home. I'm sure that's going to be the case for many of the students who will be returning. For those, and he doesn't know who of his friends are actually going to be there. Do you have a sense as to, one, how many students actually can make it back and be at these schools? Because if they've lost their home, I mean, where are they going to be living?
Well, that's very fluid right now. I mean, we are tracking it. We have a system where we track all of our student registrations. So we do know, but it's daily, it's fluid. On average, we have about 475 students between the elementary and the high school, junior high school. But right now we're not sure, and we won't know certainly until closer to September 17th.
And Carolyn, what about the staff? I assume that many of them probably lived in Jasper, and some of them, I'm sure, have been hit hard by this. Do you have a sense as to the number of staff that you'll be able to have return and how they're coping?
Yes, we do. All of our staff but 2, as of today, are returning. And we've been working with the municipality of Jasper and Alberta Education to find temporary housing for those who have lost their homes.
Those staff members, they're going to have a time of it. I think that you know that, certainly. I mean, they've got not just the delay of the school year to deal with, but then these are going to be tough conversations that they are having with students as they make their way back into these schools.
Yes, very much so. And so I've been reaching out to staff, writing to staff. We had a staff town hall today for our Jasper staff. We hosted a professional development session. It was gifted to us by the Center for Trauma-Informed Practice, and that is Kevin and Carrie Cameron. And they provided us with a counselor facilitator, Bonnie Randall, who worked with the staff today around what they're going through and how they can support the students moving forward. Ms. Randall has worked with other school divisions who've been in the same situation, so she's very experienced in this area. And it was a great event today. It really was the start of some healing, so we're pleased. More to come, of course.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was going to ask you. What do you think those supports are going to look like in this school? Because day one's going to be difficult. Day two is not going to be that much easier, really. I mean, these conversations, what did I do last summer, is going to be probably a theme throughout the entire year. So what kind of mental health helps are going to be available to the staff and the students?
Well, I'm happy to say we have a division psychologist. We have a group of family school liaison counselors, some BEST coordinators, some health navigators, and they've all been deployed around the 5 zones from our division to the Jasper and the Hinton area. And we're also working with an agency called COS in Jasper. They'll be providing additional supports. And we're also working with the Ministry of Addictions and Health, Mental Health, and they are meeting with us every week and will provide support to us to allow us to get more staff to come in and support. Because, as you probably heard, trauma doesn't always just happen today. 6 months down the road, you could be experiencing it, or a year, or on an anniversary. So this is long-term planning that we're doing to support our students, their families, and our staff.
Carolyn, I mean, Jasper was particularly hit hard, but I'm sort of thinking of other communities that have dealt with devastating wildfire. Fort McMurray in Alberta, and we saw in that story that it just aired pictures from British Columbia of devastating floods that have wreaked havoc on school systems, among other things, of course. Have you looked to other districts for guidance or for best practices when it comes to this kind of thing?
I have, but it's really in reverse. All of my superintendent colleagues have reached out. They reached out right away. We share the junior senior high school with the Francophone board, Conseil Scolaire, Centre Nord, and their superintendent, Dr. Robert Lessard, his first day on the job when he was superintendent was a school in the Fort McMurray fires. So he's been a great partner, supporting me and me supporting him. Our colleagues from Fort McMurray have reached out. They've actually started a project for getting school supplies for our students and for our staff. They've been amazing. Everybody's been so kind.
Well, Carolyn, that's such good news to hear. And I, as we just heard in that story, certainly I know, or at least some students, very much looking forward to the start of the year, as I'm sure you and the staff are as well. Big challenges, but thanks for your time tonight.
You're very welcome. Thank you.